Today on Legally Yes, Prince Harry is trying to protect his family as the Presley family reaches a settlement. Plus, Randall Emmett slams the new Hulu doc as he and LaLa Ken's custody battle rages on. And Britney Spears' sons may be moving to Hawaii. We've got that plus so much more on today's Legally Yes. Hey everybody, welcome to Legally Yes. I'm Scheana. That's, of course, Neama Rahmani, President and CEO of West Coast Trial Lawyers. Hi, Neama. How are you?
Scheana, I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. We got some more royal news, and this is coming on the heels of some big Prince Harry and Meghan Markle news as they were in a near catastrophic accident in New York City after being chased by the paparazzi. But earlier this week, he was taking some extreme measures to protect his family when they visit the United Kingdom after his initial request to fund his own police security in the UK was denied. His lawyers argued against the action in London earlier this week. His lawyer asked the London judge to allow him to challenge the government's denial of his request, saying that he has exceeded its authority and its denial was inconsistent with legislation that allows a police chief to provide special police services for payment. So Parliament has clearly decided that in principle, payment for policing is not inconsistent with the public interest. This has been going back and forth for quite some time. Harry wants to pay for this himself. They're saying absolutely not. So why won't the Home Office approve this request?
Well, Prince Harry no longer is acting as a member of the royal family. So he's essentially just a private citizen. So the Home Office may be saying, we don't allow private citizens to retain police officers for this reason. And it's really up to the policy of the individual department. So for instance, here in the US, you can't hire FBI agents or Secret Service agents for any reason, right? Doesn't matter how much you pay or what the circumstances are. Those are limited to public officials, protecting obviously the president or, members of Congress or Supreme Court justices. Mm-hmm. But there are instances where you can hire local police officers or county sheriffs, right? We see police escorts all the time or sporting events. It's really up to the individual agency and how they want to handle that. Sometimes they will allow it for private citizens and sometimes they won't. But, Prince Harry now is no different from any other private citizen in the UK, albeit a wealthy one.
Right. So it's if they bend the rules for one, they have to bend the rules for everyone, pretty much is what it comes down to. But so he can hire his own private security, but why does he want this extra police protection?
Well, whenever you're dealing with uniformed police officers, it's going to provide a little bit more of a deterrent, a higher level of protection than just private security. Not to say that their roles are going to differ. It's just how the public responds to someone in a uniform versus someone who's private security.
Mm-hmm. Why do you feel like he's spending so much time on these UK trials? Obviously, he's in the phone hacking trial right now. He's, contesting the security. Why do you think he's spending so much time when clearly he lives in the United States?
Well, Scheana, sometimes you see people take legal action for legal reasons or even business reasons, right? There's money at stake. But this is, I think, an emotional decision by Prince Harry. I think he feels that he and Meghan have been treated unfairly by the royal family and certainly the British tabloids. I mean, he has a very poor impression of them and he really kind of wants to give them a little bit of payback. I'm not saying that he's not going to make money on these cases or, when he's dealing with the royals in the Home Office. But this seems to me personal rather than a business decision. And we do see this in a lot of the cases that we cover.
Right. And like I said before, they were in this near catastrophic accident in New York City when the paparazzi were chasing them while they were going to an event. And obviously, this is eerily familiar to what happened to his mother, Princess Diana. But does this help his case at all, being like, I need that extra protection? Look at what just happened to me in New York.
I think it does help. Obviously, you're talking about a different city, different country. But I mean, you're right. I'm a little bit older and I do remember Princess Diana and how she tragically passed away. So I'm not saying the prince doesn't need security, doesn't need protection. The question is, does he have a right to uniform police officers to take them off the street, pay them, whether it's a normal pay or overtime? Again, it's something that governments routinely do. It's just a question of, is it something that's offered to all private citizens or really none at all?
Right. Do you feel like he'll get this now traveling in the United States, maybe to big cities?
I don't think so. I mean, this is something that typically law enforcement agencies don't do unless there's a specific reason or an event. So obviously here in LA, they'll do it for the Academy Awards or, football games or the World Cup or the Olympics. I mean, that's something that you're going to expect to see uniformed police officers, but you don't see private citizens just walking around the city of LA with, LAPD escorts. Just doesn't happen.
Yeah, it doesn't happen. All right. Well, moving on to a story that we talked a lot about over the past couple months. Lisa Marie Presley's mother, Priscilla Presley, and daughter Riley Keough, they have reached a settlement in the battle over her trust. Priscilla's attorney, Ronson J. Shaman, he shared the news during a May 16th court hearing, saying that everyone is happy, unified together, and excited for the future. So details of the settlement were not discussed at the hearing, but as we know, a few days after Lisa Marie passed away back in January, Priscilla contested her will, which named Riley as the beneficiary of her mother's estate. Priscilla did not believe that this was invalid. She alleged that the singer, that her daughter's signature appeared to be forged and that the amendment was not witnessed or notarized. But it seems like we came to a resolution. Do you imagine that Riley maybe had to pay a hefty settlement to make this kind of go away?
I think Riley paid something, but I don't think it was a hefty settlement. I don't think Priscilla had a particularly good case. I mean, you're challenging the amendment entirely, saying it's fraudulent. How do you go from that to all of a sudden saying, well, oh no, Riley, you're the rightful, beneficiary of this trust? So I think, Riley didn't want to litigate with her grandma. Obviously, we know these intra-family lawsuits can get nasty, and a lot of this kind of spill out, in a public way that some of these, celebrities, they just don't like. So I see why it settled, but I think it settled probably because Priscilla didn't have as good of a case as she thought she did.
Yeah, definitely. So, but are you surprised that this settled so quickly, or do you feel like maybe Priscilla realized that this wasn't going to go anywhere?
I think Priscilla and her lawyers saw the writing on the wall and wanted to make this go away. I mean, this is the type of case that you go litigate. This is a case that you lose. So, it's better to walk away before you lose everything entirely.
Yeah, well, glad the family, like they said, is happy and unified, and hopefully we can all move on from this. Well, I wouldn't want to be Randall Emmett this week because he has this upcoming Hulu documentary. It's called Randall Scandal, Love, Loathing, and Vanderpump, which delves into these multiple allegations against the film producer. He told Page Six, almost 1 year ago, the Los Angeles Times wrote a highly biased and factually inaccurate hit piece on me. One of the writers, Amy Kaufman, seemed to have a personal vendetta against me, I believe due to her alleged friendship with his ex, LaLa Kent. He added, among other things, the article contained fictitious and greatly exaggerated stories made up by a few former disgruntled employees. LaLa was also a participant in this fiasco, likely because I've been fighting for 50-50 joint legal custody of their child. So this expose back in June of 2022 accused him of professional misconduct and a series of allegations. Like we said, he has denied it time and time again. But can Randall sue this production company for defamation?
He can, but things are not looking good for Randall Emmett. I mean, you have this LA Times article, and they actually just issued another one just a couple days ago. And now you got this Hulu documentary, and at the same time, your ex, LaLa, is doing quite well on Vanderpump Rules, and the ratings are through the roof. So this is going to be bad publicity. Now, if I were Randall and we're talking about one case or one allegation or even two, it's one thing, but there's a lot of different cases, a lot of accusations. So if you're going to go challenge this, you're going to sue the production company. There's a couple things that you need to consider. First, you're a public figure. It's harder to win a case, a defamation case, as a public figure. You have to show actual malice. That means that Randall and his lawyers would have to show that the production company knew the statements were false or acted in reckless disregard for the truth. And that's because he's put himself out there. He's not just a producer. He was a cast member on Vanderpump Rules. The other is you're dealing with First Amendment protections that a lot of these newspapers have. So to the extent that this is a documentary or this is newsworthy, it's harder to sue a publication. And of course, we all know that truth is an absolute defense to defamation. So you got to prove that not just these 1, 2, 3, all of these accusers, what they're saying is untrue. That's a pretty tough legal hill for Randall and his lawyers to climb.
Yeah, definitely. And at the core of this, they said, they're fighting a custody battle over their 2-year-old daughter, Ocean. And LaLa has been speaking out a lot about the family court system. And he said that she is speaking out so much to maybe sway the family court's decision. Could that possibly be the case? Would the family court watch a documentary like this and be like, he is not a fit father?
Well, anything can be used as evidence in a case, right? But hopefully a family law judge is going to make a decision based on the facts and the law and not a documentary. But I mean, we've seen it time and time again. Every week, you and I are together on this show, and we're talking about these custody disputes and how nasty they can get. And, believe it or not, sometimes these family law cases, they're even worse than criminal cases where people are going to prison for years or maybe even the rest of their life. And whenever you're dealing with something as emotional as a child and an Ocean here, I'm not surprised to see it get nasty. And sometimes exes use everything they can, including our justice system, to gain leverage in these types of custody disputes.
Yeah. LaLa sat down with Nightline this week, and she talked about, and she's fighting against, it's called the reunification therapy in camps. I never really heard about that at all. So what exactly is that? And is that a common thing that people try to use to, reconnect with maybe an estranged, son or daughter?
Yeah, this is something that we've seen recently, and it's very controversial. So you kind of have a preferred parent and an alienated parent, right? So whenever a child doesn't have a relationship with one parent, there are these reunification therapists or camps. The child will go. They'll be separated from their preferred parent. And sometimes they'll spend days there talking about and trying to reunite with the estranged parent. Some people love it. They think it's great. Sometimes people think, though, that this really inflicts trauma on a child who's already going through a nasty breakup and divorce.
Right. And it seems like even at 2 years old, it seems a bit young to maybe even entertain that thought as well.
Yeah, it really does. Because if you're 2 years old, you're starting to learn to speak. How can you really have one sort of parent that you have those strong feelings about, right, that you don't want to see, and you got to go through this reunification process. It's really meant for older kids. And after years of sort of separation or a strained relationship, I don't see how it would apply to someone as young as Ocean.
Nasty. All right. Well, moving on to Britney Spears. So there's been reports that her sons, Sean Preston and Jaden James, they want to move to Hawaii with their father, Kevin Federline. So TMZ reported that K-Fed's attorney sent a letter to Britney's lawyer asking if she would be open to letting them permanently move to Hawaii with their father and their stepmother. So if Britney objects to this, Kevin Federline will go to court and ask permission for the judge. There has been reports this week after a TMZ documentary on Britney Spears that she has not seen her son in a year, and a judge will likely allow this move. So will a judge likely allow this move if it does go to court and they prove that she really hasn't seen her kids in a year or so?
Christina, I think so. And it's pretty well established that, whenever you have any type of joint custody, that you can't take the kid out of state or out of the country without permission from the other parent or leave of court. Leave just means permission of the judge. So here you have some kids who are older. I think they're 15, 16. Yep. And, they're going to have some pretty strong views about who they want to live with and where they want to live with. And if it's really true that they haven't seen their mom in a year, and we know that she was under conservatorship for part of this time, I can easily see a judge granting that request over Britney's objection if, again, the kids want it, they're older, and the relationship is really as limited as what Kevin is saying it is.
Right. I mean, what happens if a parent doesn't see a child for over a year? Can Kevin Federline in this instance go to the judge and be like, I just want full custody now since she's not involved in their life at all? I know, I don't know the percentage anymore. I know he has more custody than she does, but can he just go and be like, I mean, kind of what he's doing right now, I want them 100% of the time.
Yeah, it's certainly possible, right? If you can show the judge that, one of the parents, right, in this case, mom, is really making no effort to see the kids. It's very limited. You're talking about, just a small number of days throughout the year. A judge could say, well, yeah, why don't I grant complete, sole custody, 100% physical custody to the other parent? So it does happen. That's what you kind of see with, LaLa and Emmett, they're really fun. Randall, Emmett, they're really fighting over the custody of the child. But if one of the parents just gives up, doesn't see the kid, doesn't pay child support, isn't active in their lives, then of course the judge is going to say, well, yeah, I want to give 100% custody to the parent, that is.
Sad situation. It really is. Well, Neama, thank you for breaking it all down. As always, lots of interesting topics this week. Please let us know in the comments your thoughts, and we will see you guys next week. Thank you, Neama.
Thanks, Christina. See you next week.
For more news, content, and exclusive interviews, make sure to hit the sub, like, and bell button down below and visit usmagazine.com.